So I want to start with a bit of a personal question, a bit loaded in this season. What mood are you in today? What is the scent of your mood? Could it be described as island, continental, Latin, or perhaps Eastern? And I, for reference, am wearing Latin today. Too bad we're not in the same room. In 1968, Hilton hotels offered women guests these 4 moods in the form of 4 tiny bottles of perfume placed in certain hotel rooms. By offering this sensory version of travel, Hilton could emphasize the transformative potential of staying in a hotel, making Hilton itself a destination. At the same time, they could appeal to women guests as a special category of consumer. And that's what I'll be talking about today. The perfumes were part of the Lady Hilton program that Hilton Hotels launched in 1965. The program was designed for female guests traveling alone, and its launch reflected increased mobility and professional workforce participation for American women in the post-war period. In this paper, I look at how the program constructed the female traveler through its sensory and material offerings. The Lady Hilton program was created in the already complex sensory context of 20th century hotels. Early in the century, the intertwined phenomena of urbanization, increased domestic travel, and industrialization created a larger market for temporary lodging and competition between providers. So to compete, hotel owners and managers became dedicated to managing the sensory environment of their hotels. In 1926, an article in an industry journal exhorted managers to pay attention to, quote, the 5 senses of the guest: see, taste, smell, feel, hear. These are the 5 ways in which guests become aware of conditions in a hotel that affect their comfort and pleasure. And this person especially encouraged people to pay attention to smell and sound. Not only should a room not smell bad, it could actually smell good. Quote, this does not mean that incense should be burned or that heavily fragrant flowers should be displayed. It means, though, that effort should be made to provide a suitable fragrance for the season and the environment, which will be one thing in a bedroom, another in a lobby, still another in a dining room or a cafe. Scent should be orchestrated. Attending to sound meant not just eliminating unpleasant sounds like rattling elevators, but producing pleasant sounds. Staff, for example, should wear shoes that have a footfall that is firm rather than slouchy. I don't know what that means. I have to get the shoes to find out. Imagining the guest as sensitive to this degree added new layers to the concept of service. As far back as 1918, the Morrison Hotel in Chicago had advertised, when my lady travels, she wants that sense of security, of attentiveness, of unembarrassing guidance that is a special feature of Morrison service to women. In this case, the Morrison offered a female staff member as a guide to local attractions that could be expected to interest women. In listing them, the hotel presented the female traveler to herself as a person who was primarily at leisure and engaged in consumption, first of goods, then of culture, and only thirdly as a person possibly at work. The ad also constructed her as someone who might know what she wanted, but not be confident enough to go and find it herself. And the implication, I think, is that she can't ask a man for these directions because she may risk her safety if she does so. So she has a woman to ask these things of. In 1926, Catherine Jordan McGowan, who managed the women's floor at the Palmer House, reported each year brings a noticeable increase in the number of lady travelers. And she says most of the larger hotels have sort of set aside special sections for women, where they may secure every possible attention and that exclusiveness desired by so many refined women. So while the special attentions, such as manicurists sent up to the room and guides to local shopping, you could have had them on any floor, setting aside a whole floor for women suggests that female guests could find proximity to unknown men disquieting. So I wonder if exclusiveness was a code word for safety. And if so, these all-women floors provided a sense of security that could be bodily, the sense of the release of that familiar tension that women have when they're in unsafe spaces. In these early examples of gender-based amenities, the female guest is constructed as a person entitled to special treatment, essentially engaged with consumer goods, art, and her own physical appearance. McGowan noted, however, that in contrast to this construction of the guest, there are many self-sufficient women quite capable of looking after themselves who need no special attention, indeed might resent any. So even as her job title posits a difference between male and female guests, her experience of the guests says otherwise. Because the Depression and then the war battered the hotel industry, the special features for women travelers were sort of temporarily scuttled. But by 1965, traveler demographics had shifted again, and Hilton notices this. So they already had a director for women's services, Lucille Skertson. Skertson came up with a name for the program, and the company assigned a butterfly as its logo. The butterfly represented the female guest as sort of in transit, but whimsically so, kind of flitting from place to place, not traveling with her attaché case and going to meetings. The delicacy of the butterfly also implies that women guests need gentle treatment. Before launching the program, Hilton had surveyed female guests in 3 of its most important hotels. 77% of the women who responded to the survey traveled on business. Of these, only 57% were married, and more than 70% were over 40. So this is a cohort of experienced professionals who mostly get by on one income and seem to thrive. They listed location and amenities as their top priorities, with cost listed last, which suggests that they had expense accounts and or disposable income. So even with this little data, I think a butterfly is not a very good representation of who these women really were. Each Hilton that instituted the program realized it in different ways. The program comprised a range of offerings, from full floors set aside to women to rooms especially decorated for them, to this menu of female amenities. And this is a picture of what we have here, and services that are deemed attractive to female guests. Typical items were jewelry trays, special hangers for skirt suits, sewing kit, hat and shoe racks, fresh flowers, and women's magazines. Bathrooms were equipped with magnifying mirrors, bath salts, shower caps, and, quote, dearest to the dieting female's heart, a scale, which you can see here. The prevalence of the color pink and floral motifs set Lady Hilton rooms apart in the most stereotyping way. Pink and flowers marked the rooms as territory in which only women could feel secure in their gender identity. Even as it stereotyped them, the decor could also supply a kind of fantasy of feminine supremacy for guests who, especially if they were traveling on business, constantly encountered worlds not made for them. Reviewing a stay in a Lady Hilton room, this is a quote, a government executive writes, "I appreciate your little extras in the Lady Hilton rooms." And the vice president of a bank, both of these are women, says, "I have always felt hotels needed the woman's touch. And in your case, that touch certainly made our stay enjoyable." So I want to say what that woman's touch is. The feminine touches I see in this campaign I can divide them into 2 categories. So self-improvement and then self-care, as we would call it now. Self-improvement items indicated to the guest that someone on the staff understands the work of performing femininity. This attention to the guest as a performer constructs the female traveler as a person not wholly at ease, unable literally to let her hair down, even though she might be on vacation in a hotel. Shower caps, which seem such insignificant things now, were a really important tool in this endeavor, as they protected the hairdos that were done once a week and that were completely ruined if they got wet. By providing the caps, Lady Hilton says, "We support you in this work. We know what it takes." The bathroom scale, here seen at the top of the slide, performs similar work in that it acknowledges the female guest's fears that she will fail to conform to ideals of feminine beauty. It recognizes and enables the hard work she does to control her appetite. It makes women aware of their corporeality, notably at odds with the image of that butterfly. Ironically, the women who Hilton surveyed when it was coming up with the concept listed room service and the hotel cocktail bar as their favorite amenities. So this is really at odds with their attempt to stay slim. Lighted magnifying mirrors also helped women maintain appearances and perform gender. So they can have a close-up of that terrain that they must adjust constantly. By magnifying so-called flaws, the mirrors used a kind of hyper-reality to help female guests work against nature. So together, these things, the mirror, the scale, the shower cap, address the female traveler as a body under scrutiny. Amenities supported this regime of self-monitoring for public consumption. Far from a site for leisure, the Lady Hilton room was a sort of workshop of femininity. And then we move to the other category of self-care. So bath salts, perfumes, extra pillows, magazines, and flowers construct the female guest as a body with pleasures, with the right to indulge, to retreat, and to change moods, especially. Bath salts supposed a woman of action in need of privacy and relaxation. Excuse me. They offered her a combined experience of warmth and scent to undo the tensions accumulated through a day. So again, that bodily sense. Providing bath salts invited female guests to enjoy the hotel as an escape from any claims on their time. Because they were only given to Lady Hilton guests, the set of tiny perfume bottles, the 4 moods, constructed women as especially responsive to sensory experiences, able to travel in their imaginations. The scents seem to have been designed to reference perfumes that were widely known in 1968. Continental smells very much like Chanel No. 5, even in the very old bottle I have, while Eastern has notes similar to Shalimar. The moods available were to some degree sort of preset through this popular culture of the moment, but they were also specific to the objectives of a hospitality company, making the person who sniffed them think about travel. They were packaged as a transporting experience, a trip within a trip for the Lady Hilton guest. Because perfumes were frequently given as gifts, These particular special touches could be experienced as tokens of love, corporatized, but perhaps better for that, as having no strings attached beyond the hotel bill, which often someone else was paying. As an informal flyer for the Palmer House in Chicago noted, all women are special at Hilton hotels, whatever their experience might be at work or at home. Travel offered an opportunity to be appreciated and cared for. And when she took home the perfumes, the guest could reconnect to that travel experience through the scents. So now smelling not only continental, but also Lady Hilton. Thank you.